So, there's a lot of pop stars we know, but I'd say there's very few superstars that we know. And there's a couple that come up, like Taylor Swift, Harry Styles, I think, are two that a lot of people here would agree on are pretty much superstars. They have a lot of worldwide influence. Well, let's take it back 80 years or so. Some of the first pop stars, as we might recognize them, are the Beatles. And so the Beatles, basically, I'm sure everyone in here knows or has a general idea of who they were. They were a group of 4 musicians from Liverpool, England, and they had a tremendous impact on culture, mostly Western culture, but also kind of across the world. And so I want to talk about them a little bit. I want to talk on a brief history about them, some of their stylistic influences they had, and then furthermore, some of the lyrical influences that they had. So, where did they start? Well, they were a group recognized about 1962 to 1970. That's when they made most of their studio albums. And so, before that though, they had been playing music. They were college kids, and they had a little bit of recognized talent. They played at a place called the Cavern Club. I've got that from Lewis and M, 1990. And so basically they had some talent and they got picked up by an agent, but he was like, "You're not good enough to go mainstream." So he sent them to a place called Hamburg, Germany, where they did an extended stay at a club there for a couple months at a time. And they played every single night for months, and they really honed in their craft. So they were just writing kind of simple love songs like "I Want to Hold Your Hand." I'm sure you've heard that one before. That one's just, there's not a lot of substance there. But they played the song over and over and over again. And eventually, it led them to kind of honing their craft so much that they were above their competition. And so around 1962, they came back to England, started playing, and people loved them, especially young people. They became extremely fashionable, and then something took over called Beatlemania, which is basically this concept. Oh, I got a presentation laid. Could you pull that up? What? Well, do you want me to stop speaking or?
No, you can.
Gotcha. So basically, Beatlemania came up. It's just young people being obsessed with them. It's like Swifties. That's actually a perfect analogy. And so basically, people love them, and it got to a point actually. Well, here, I'll pull back on this. The Beatles also, now that they had their fame, they started kind of wanting to branch out from that and take a more political, not just on the fame and the love of it all, but they wanted to kind of be artists and they wanted to be people. They started taking like political opinions. So in September 11th, 1964, they were going to play at a place called the Gator Bowl in Florida. But then they found out it was going to be segregated, and so they just canceled the concert completely. They're like, "We're not going, we're not doing it." I got that from Gunderson C, 2020. And so basically they kind of started branching out a little bit. And this Beatlemania they had was really bogging them down. People were screaming so loud they couldn't hear themselves playing on stage. So eventually they just kind of gave up with live music. Their last concert was August 29th, 1963, Lewis and M. And so basically that was their final live performance, or 1968, I'm so sorry. And they went into performing just like studio albums and releasing music like that. So that kind of led to them expanding a bit stylistically. And they've had a lot of influences in places you might not think they would, outside of just like pop and rock. So right here notably, in Mark Blake's Comfortably Numb, The Inside Story of Pink Floyd, it was wrote, "We were one of the first bands to benefit from the freedom that the Beatles had provided after Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band's album. We all had a lot more freedom." So basically what that's saying is that Pink Floyd, one of the most influential psychedelic artists of the time, and also they had a bit of a stream in just the classic rock, what we would now call classic rock, they benefited from the freedom that the Beatles gave by kind of going their own way outside of performing live, benefited from the creativity they had. And that became a pretty big deal. A lot of bands picked up on that. Additionally, the Beatles can be partially credited with the creation of metal, if anyone in here likes metal music, due to their song Helter Skelter, which was released in response to Pete Townshend's I Can See for a Mile. So, outside of stylistic influences, they also have had a lot of lyrical influences, influencing. You mind if I zoom out?
Yeah.
Gotcha. That is tremendously. Oh no.
Control scroll wheel. If you hit control and scroll wheel, I'm pretty sure.
Or minus.
Yep.
There we go. Awesome.
I'm him.
All right, so right here, this is a bunch of songs credited that have references to them. So I don't know if London Calling, pretty famous one. Wonderwall, I'm sure everyone here has heard of Wonderwall at least. People don't really realize All the Roads We Have to Walk Are Winding is a reference to the song The Long and Winding Road. British Beatlemania again, and We Didn't Start the Fire. Beyonce, I can't remember the artist who featured, but in one of his rap verses, he says he is a star like Ringo, as in Ringo Starr, the drummer for the Beatles. And American Pie by Don McLean, that really annoying song that's like 8 minutes long. There is tons of references in there. Lennon read a book on Marx is a reference to John Lennon becoming involved in socialism. The Quartet Practice in the Park, the four of them. Helter Skelter is a reference to the song. And then While the Sergeant Played a Marching Tune is a reference again to Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, which is just another point on how influential this album was in terms of everyone. It really did change the music scene when it was released in 1966. And so, furthermore, this is kind of crazy. There was in Maryland, there was a court case on solar energy, and in the majority opinion they wrote at the end, they just started by saying, "Here comes the sun," the Beatles. And I thought that was crazy, that this group from the late 60s had such a weird influence on everyone, even today, where that is just something they put at the beginning of a court document, just a reference to the lyrics. And so basically, in summary, the Beatles have had a tremendous effect on everyone from genre influences to lyrical influences to just the general music scene and how we perceive pop stars. And yeah, any references you guys can think of? I don't know. Thanks for sticking with me, everyone.